From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Monday night on News Channel 5. Plus, football is back. The Titans are on the field. Actually, for the last 3 days now, they've been on the field, starting training camp practice on Saturday. Day one of pads this morning belonged to the defense. Some nerves on the offensive side of the ball, it appeared. Anxiety, as Mike Mularkey described it. And the defense really came to play. They've been very good through the first 3 days of this training camp, flying around to the ball, making plays, forcing turnovers, which has been the theme of their offseason and into the training camp in terms of what they want to do this year. They want to create game-breaking type of plays. They want to create turnovers, and so far in training camp, they've done a good job of doing just that. The big play today came in the red zone. Denoris Searcy jumping a pass intended for Eric Decker and coming up with the interception right on the goal line for the defense. Number one, it was a great play. Number two, it helped the defense win the turnover battle for the day, which was their goal all along. And maybe most remarkably, it came against Marcus Mariota in the red zone. I mean, we all know the numbers and how proficient and terrific he's been inside the 20-yard line in his career. The numbers in the regular season for Marcus Mariota in his NFL career in the red zone are 33 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. That's the best the National Football League has ever produced, right there. And that's what he's done in his first 2 years in the league. But today, the defense gets the best of him on that play. Now, to Mariota's credit, he came back on the very next play, got himself out of trouble in the pocket, and found Rashard Matthews for a touchdown on another red zone play. So he bounced back quickly. But the defense came up with that big play, and they won the turnover battle today. Got them out of a half an hour of meetings tonight. Little reward for them out of that. Lots of interesting observations from the first few days of training camp. Be fascinated if you were out there. Did you attend any of these first 3 training camp practices? A couple of glorious weekend afternoons out at St. Thomas Sports Park. They got going bright and early this morning for day one of pads. 8:55 on the field. And that's when they'll be out there again tomorrow morning. Have you been out there? What has your impression been of the Titans so far? Our phone lines are open tonight. 737-7767 is the number. I've been impressed by Marcus Mariota. I think he has looked remarkably sharp for a guy who really up until the last month or so hasn't been able to do everything that you would want to do in an offseason to get ready for training camp. I think he looks no worse for the wear from the injury, from the fractured fibula from a year ago. Gosh, that still makes me cringe when I think about it, when you're talking about your star quarterback, the face of your franchise. But he's back and ready to go. Has been relatively sharp so far. Offensive line still looks imposing. Hard to tell much without seeing them until today in pads. And like I said, today the defense was better. But that was mainly because of turnovers, not necessarily because such a great impact against that offensive line. Running backs look sharp. Derrick Henry looks like he has another burst to his game this year. It is going to be difficult for them to keep him off the field. Now, DeMarco Murray's awesome. And remember what he did last year in year one here in Tennessee. You're not going to unseat him. He's the running back of this football team, and you expect a ton of production from him. But can they get Henry on the field more? Can they split up their carries a little bit more evenly this year? Can you get them on the field at the same time? All of that will be interesting to see how it is, because Derrick Henry's got to the corner a couple times so far in camp and run by people. And with his size and ability to run up the middle, when you throw that in there as well, look out. He's looked mighty impressive so far with his speed, explosiveness, and of course that power that he runs with as well. Delanie Walker, to me, looks thin, looks really fast. He turned the corner on one tight end screen today and just outran everybody down the sideline. He is still the Pro Bowl weapon that you have come to expect out of that tight end position for the Titans. Jonnu Smith, the young rookie, looks like a physical guy that has tools to perhaps be a Delaney Walker type down the road. And to me, the wide receiver position's been impressive. Corey Davis looked good yesterday when he showed up. Taywan Taylor had a really nice day today for the Titans. The guy that has stood out to me, though, and maybe been the best player on the offense so far through 3 days, is Eric Decker. How fortunate a signing for the Titans in free agency to have him sitting around. Think about this. This is a guy with 385 career catches, 52 career touchdowns. He is a red zone beast. And towards the end of the offseason, as you're sitting around for training camp, Titans are in mini camp still. Jets are done. He gets released. Kind of out of left field. And where's he get that call? Where's he learn that fate? Right here in Nashville, where he's got a home with his wife. Was a bit of her own career here in Nashville. How easy for the Titans to swoop in for a guy that's really good in the red zone. One of the things we kept hearing the Titans say that they needed at the wide receiver position is someone who is just precise. Last year they complained a lot about receivers not hitting their marks, not being precise in routes, not always being where Marcus Mariota trusted them to be. Eric Decker's made his living in the National Football League based off of precision, based off of running perfect routes and finding a way to get open. He's absolutely the type of guy that the Titans needed and wanted at that position. And lo and behold, he comes open in the middle of the summer, and he's sitting in your own backyard. You bring him over during your minicamp. He actually gets a chance to walk out on the field and see how things are done. And the next thing you know, you have a deal signed. And Eric Decker walks right into camp, first 3 days that he's ever put on a Titans uniform. And he's one of your best players on the offensive side of the ball. Really, really impressive start to camp, and that is what makes me feel so good about this Titans receiver position. All of the upgrades, you bring in Corey Davis, you bring in Taylor, you bring in Decker. Rashard Matthews is back from last year. You've got some other depth there, Tajay Sharp, Harry Douglas, Eric Weems. You got maybe more of a special teams presence there. But all of a sudden, this team where over the last couple of years you kind of wondered, who are they going to throw the ball to? Who are the reliable targets that are going to step up and make play after play after play for this team? Now all of a sudden, you wonder how many of those guys they can keep. Can't imagine they keep any more than 6 guys. Somebody's going to get left out of that group, and it's going to be a guy who can play wide receiver in the NFL. That's how drastically different that position looks now for the Titans. And Eric Decker's right at the top of that list, man. When you talk about guys we're going to see a lot of the field this year, I got to believe the 3 guys that are going to be out there the most, Rashard Matthews, who looked like a number 1 last year, Corey Davis, who was drafted to be a number 1, eventually anyway, and Decker, with the ways he's playing. And Taywan Taylor is going to play. He's going to find spots in this offense, no question about it. But those top 3, that's as good of a top 3 as the Titans have had at the wide receiver position quite some time. And again, that's why people are so excited, because this offense looks like it has the potential on paper to be really, really good. And then you talk about how good the defense has looked in the first 3 days. There's something to be excited about over there. This roster looks different. Defensive line. Jarrell Casey, Pro Bowler. Karl Klug, talk about a recovery from an injury. Karl Klug tore his Achilles last year in the game in Kansas City in Week 15. That is supposed to be a 9-month injury. So best case scenario, people are basically saying mid-September he might be able to work his way back. And oh, by the way, his contract was expiring. So think about that. And think about how much the Titans must think about Karl Klug to have a guy who isn't necessarily a Pro Bowler. He's got kind of a specific role on this team. But to have a gruesome, terrible injury like that, one that is one of the most difficult for an athlete to come back from and be themselves and get back on time and be a part of the next season. And he doesn't have a contract. They could have let him go. They could have gone out and done other things. Karl Klug could have had to defend for himself. They sign him anyway. And how do they get rewarded? By a guy, and they knew he was going to do this because they know Karl Klug the way I know Karl Klug. Karl Klug is a gritty, gutsy guy that grinds it out every single day. And when people told him it was going to be 9 months in mid-September, he told himself, I want to be ready for training camp. He grinded every day in the offseason. And I remember seeing him towards the end of the year when guys were cleaning stuff out and he was just beginning the process. And then I remember seeing him at the beginning of OTAs in April when he was just starting to run. And you could tell he was frustrated because this is a guy who wants to work and he wants to outwork the next guy, and that's how he's made his living in the NFL. But at that time he knew he couldn't. And so where he put his work into was rehab and rehab and rehab some more, because he wanted to live up to his promise to himself that he was going to be out there. And we knew it by the end of minicamp. It was pretty clear. Karl Klug was going to be ready to go when the Titans came back for training camp. And he is. He's not taking every rep yet, but there's no need for him to take every rep yet. This is a guy that has a very specific role on this team. He plays it incredibly well. He's a team guy. The locker room loves him. The coaches love him. For him to be back, that is huge. You add Sylvester Williams to that defensive line. This is a stout front three. And the linebacking core, all of a sudden, is probably the deepest position on the team. They kept 9 guys there last year. I think they're going to keep at least that many there this year. And you have the potential now. Think about this. They signed Eric Walden, who had a career-high 11 sacks last year from the Colts. That means the Titans now have 3 guys in Arakpo, Morgan, and Walden that combined for over 30 sacks between the 3 of them last year. Find me another team in the league that has 3 guys at an outside linebacker or pass rushing position that are all 10-sack threats. That's what the Titans have now. And oh, by the way, Kevin Dodd finally looks healthy. Guy that you drafted 33rd overall last year. They can be vicious going after the passer if they want this year, which is going to help out the secondary, which is revamped and looks good so far. That's going to be the real question. How does the secondary hold up? Because it has been problematic for years now. Logan Ryan is in. Adoree Jackson was drafted to come in. LaShawn Sims showed some signs last year. Bryce McCain's back in the slot. You've got Jonathan Cyprien in from Jacksonville to join Kevin Byard and Doris Searcy at safety. There's some bodies back there now, and there's some serious competition. But I know the Titans feel good about Ryan. They've got high hopes for Jackson. They love Kevin Byard at safety. Searcy's solid. Cyprien's a guy who's not been able to be fully 100% so far in training camp, but they obviously have confidence in him. He graded out as the 7th best safety in the NFL last year. This is a new-look Titans team. And gone are the days when you look at the roster and you immediately find holes and you immediately find weakness and you wonder, how do they mask that? How do they stack up? Those days are over. You look at this team now and you wonder how they keep all these guys. Who is going to be a really good football player that doesn't make the 53-man roster here? That's going to be a real question. Interesting times over there at St. Thomas Sports Park, and it feels different. 2,500 fans or so over the first 2 days of training camp there for each practice. I mean, we're talking about practice, man. Fans showing up for practice in droves because there are expectations that this Titans team can do something we haven't seen for a while. 2008 was the last time the Titans were in the playoffs. It will be a real disappointment if this Titans team doesn't make the playoffs, barring some horrific injuries, which would be a disappointment in their own right. Obviously, Marcus Mariota can't get hurt. You don't want to lose one of those running backs. There are other pieces that are going to be very difficult to replace if one of those guys would go down. But if you can keep some injury luck, keep your health, this is a roster that can be very good and should compete favorably within the AFC South to win a division and get to the playoffs. And once you get there, we all know you have a chance to make a run. And that is the expectation this year in Tennessee. And you feel it. You feel it at St. Thomas Sports Park. You feel it in the locker room. You see it when the fans show up. Times are changing when it comes to the Tennessee Titans. Your thoughts on the Titans on this program tonight? Call us up, 737-7767. Our lines are open, and we would love to hear from you tonight. Did you go out to Titans training camp this weekend or this morning? What were your impressions? What did you like? And maybe what your biggest questions are about this Titans team heading into the 2017 season. Again, phone lines are open, 737-7767. Got to take our first break. When we come back, we'll get to calls, plus more on the Titans as we begin this Sports Line on a Monday night on News Channel 5+.